Jeff Cole realizes his dream of becoming an undercover cop. Working his way up the ranks is one thing, but now he faces the challenge of his life when called upon to infiltrate and bring down the kingpin known as God. No, not that one. The one played by LL Cool J.
Bring it, come on.
Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club. This is the show for Gen X hip hop fans who want to relive the glory days and reconsider classic and modern hip hop films from a current day perspective. Together, we'll explore some of the larger societal issues raised in these films. If you've seen today's movie before, then you'll learn some fascinating trivia you might have missed. If you haven't seen today's movie before, then we'll help you decide whether this film is worth your time. Either way, you'll be a smarter hip hop fan by the end of this episode. The next 30 minutes or so, you'll get all this and more. We are three old heads who put their old heads together to vibe on these films for you. I'm Dino Wright, podcaster, filmmaker, longtime hip hop fan, and I'm the cult jam to these guys' Lisa.
I'm JB, 80s and 90s nostalgia junkie, longtime hip hop fan. And just like the prodigal son, I've returned. Anyone stepping at me, you'll get burned.
I like that. I'm Boogie, a DJ, longtime hip hop fan, and I have a pretty cool stash of vintage vinyl.
Nice.
No doubt. In this episode, we'll answer the question, how deep do you need to get in to take down God?
In Too Deep is a 1999 crime drama starring Omar Epps, LL Cool J, Nia Long, Stanley Tucci, as well as a handful of other hip-hop luminaries, depicting the story of an undercover cop putting his life at risk to try to bring down a major drug kingpin. All right, let's dive in. So in this movie, you have LL Cool J portraying a major drug player, kingpin named God, as his nickname, alongside. So he's a nasty fella. Where would you rank him alongside other hip hop movie villains such as Nino Brown, Bishop, and others that we may have seen or maybe we haven't seen just yet? Boogie, where would you rank him based on his characterization in this film?
You know, I was trying to figure this one out, and I was struggling where I would rank him because I could see some qualities. He had some Nino-esque qualities about him, but I don't think he was. Well, no, I think he could have been easily as ruthless as Nino. I think he was not as wired up as Bishop was, because Bishop was out to actually try to prove himself, whereas as we see God, he's already established. But I would think I would probably rank him about with Nino because he was he was kind of doing the work of a Robin Hood type character, feeding the neighborhood, but he was making a lot of money off the poor people as well. And those scenes where he was actually pretty brutal with some of the guys, like the one guy who was he believed was informing with the police. You know, he cut his tongue out. It's like, whoa, you know, he didn't kill him, but I mean, come on. And then the other guy, Fritzko, that was one of his best friends from from elementary school, and he tortured and killed him like it was nothing.
Was that the one
So
that was
I
going to
think
be his god, the godfather of his son? Was that the
Yeah.
one? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep.
Wow.
And that was just, and that wasn't even that was just a speculation that he believed Frisco was trying to get with his his baby's mother. Like, it wasn't even confirmed. It was just he thought it was going on.
Yeah.
So I think I put rank him pretty high just off of that. I mean, granted, we don't see too much other scenes, but just off of those things alone, I think I put him up there.
How about you, Donna, right?
I think it's third behind Bishop and Nino Brown, but it was good. I'm not sure that it was like iconic, and we try not to use that word so much. But Nino Brown's iconic. I don't think
Yeah,
he was quite as good as Nino Brown. Um, the movie was another story, but um, in the movie itself was another story. But LL Cool J was pretty good in this film.
LL Cool J was convincing as a bad guy, villain. Again, nickname was God. Dwayne Gittins, I think, was his
Hmm.
yes,
character's name. So as far as comparison to those other villains, he's kind of up there. Like the the brutality, like you mentioned, Boogie is like, but he was also hitting women, beating and torturing his crew members, violating them, like the pool table scene,
yeah,
having the body cut up in a dumpster. Like it was kind of jarring, but you don't. The problem I have with some of this movie, and we'll get it, I guess, it is some of like the characterization, the character development, and stuff like that. Like I didn't see the. You could see how Bishop turns heel. It led up to that, to a crescendo, and you can kind of see how Nino Brown's mind worked a little bit. We don't really see that. We just see this sheer brutality. So as
right,
far as characters, physically brutal, way up on the scale. But as far as like a memorable character, not quite as much.
right.
Right, right. Okay. So I mentioned at the intro there were several hip hop stars in the movie. Boogie, you want to take us through who hip hop fans would notice in the
Yeah,
film?
sure. I'll take a stab at who I was able to recognize. Well, although she's not necessarily a hip hop artist, she's a pretty well-known R&B singer. We have Maya had a brief cameo in the film. She played a character named Loretta, who we only saw pretty briefly during J Cole Jay Reed's graduation ceremony from like looked like he was graduating from the academy. We have another character. Well, this one I noticed right away. As soon as I saw his face, Shaheen, who played the character of Shay. Shaheen, aka the Rugged Child, was a recording artist who dropped onto the scene at the age of 14 with his album titled "The Rugged Child." Has a few memorable hits. He later affiliated with the Wu-Tang Clan, doing some songs with a couple of artists there. Then we have a brief cameo by Nas, who actually was it looks like he was the first drug dealer that Jay Reed had to encounter to prove that he was able to make a buy and bust. Then we have Sticky Fingers from the group Onyx. Easy to spot him. He played a character named Ozzy, who, along with another cat, tried to rob our main character, and that was not successful, and it didn't go well for him. This one I spotted too. She's an old school rap artist who was affiliated with the likes of the Audio 2, MC Light, MC Peaches, etc. Mishi Me. She had a brief cameo as well. She played a character named I had to look it up. Her name was Martha, and she was at the baptismal ceremony, and she was actually going to be the godmother to God's son. Then we have Jermaine Dupri, Mr. So Def himself, who played a character named Melvin. Had another brief cameo. There was a lot of
Yeah.
brief cameos. They were in and out, but he played a character named Melvin, who during the scene tried to take our main character outside and rob him for his gold chain and his money, but God's crew spotted the shadiness of it all and was able to stop him before he was able to shoot our main character. So those are the ones that I noticed. I didn't. I was trying to see if there were more because they were popping in and out so quick, but those are the ones that I spotted.
Yeah, I think you covered them all. You had more than I listed out. Yeah, definitely. Some more bigger names than others that you would recognize, like Nas, Jermaine Dupri, Sticky Fingers, etc. Uh, Donna, right? Any others that you noticed?
No, although I would say the guy who plays Latik, Hassan Johnson. I thought that guy could play Method Man. He kind of had the same look.
He did.
At first, I thought, oh, that Method Man, and then I realized it wasn't. So there was that, and also apparently David Allen Greer has a cameo in this, and I didn't spot that at all.
I was trying to find him. I couldn't see him.
Oh, I didn't see it, but yeah, good call on Michi Me. I only noticed that in the credits afterwards. I was like, oh, I missed that whole one.
So I kept looking at her face, and I'm like, she looks so familiar. And I paused it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know who that is.
Yeah.
And really, I think the only reason I really recognized her right away was because she's friends. She's really good friends with a friend of mine. I mentioned her name, MC Peaches, who used to live down the street from me, and she's actually signed with First Priority. So she ran with that whole crew. And every now and then she'll put up a post with Michi Me because they're still cool. And I'm like, oh, there you go. And that's why I recognized her face.
So a couple other things. Who else could have played the role of God, which was played by LL Cool J? I mean, obvious choices would be some of those other villains that we talked about, probably Tupac, Wesley Snipes. Who else do you think could play it? Or like maybe someone from this younger generation? What do you guys think?
Right off the bat, I figured we could get a little because guy he wasn't really loud. He was real low key, but he was about his business. But if we wanted to get somebody a little louder, I was thinking maybe somebody like a DMX. Shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's been in a movie with Nas before, so it
Yeah.
would have worked.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm trying to think of who else would be a good character that would play that, whether it be in hip hop world or not.
I had trouble answering this question. I
Yeah.
think generally I didn't really like the movie, but I started thinking like, what if they flipped? What if Omar Epps played God and LL Cool J played J. Cole, or not J. Cole? See, I'm saying I'm doing your thing.
It's easy to say that because
Jay-
his name was Jeff Cole, but his alias was Jay Reed. So
Jay
yeah,
Reed.
we talk about J. Cole, the rapper.
Yeah.
No, they're messing me up 30 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
That would be a good. That actually could still work.
They should redo this movie with a better script and have them flip roles.
It could work, but Omar Epps doesn't like. I think he's just too likable. Like he's like even the role that he played of like everybody in the movie suspected him as a cop. I'm like, they could tell he looks like too straight edge.
Yeah, he's too
much
nice.
of a good guy. Like he's a guy you want to hang out with at a barbecue and like be like kind of like, I don't know. I just think he'd be tougher to play that role because I don't know if he has that.
Yeah.
That mean
He definitely
streak.
had a lot of close calls with people thinking he was a cop, though.
Yeah, he did.
I had a lot of problem with those scenes. It's like,
Yeah.
if there's any doubt, there's no doubt, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
call
right.
him out on it.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
one of my many problems with the movie.
Yeah, I got you. So what were we'll talk about pitfalls of the movie, I guess, but what were some of the highlights of the movie? Like what did you like about the movie? Boogie, what were some of the things that you liked about it?
I mean, I do like crime dramas, and I do like stories about officers going undercover. Like one of my favorites is Donnie Brasco. So I love to see how officers are able to get into the network and kind of get really close in the different challenges that they have to face in doing so, because I think the hardest part is like that's mentioned in the movie is that there's going to be a time when they're going to test you, and they're not testing you to see if you're down with them. They're testing you to see if you're a cop. And I think that movies that kind of can depict that, and I did see that this was loosely based on a true story. So I definitely enjoyed those type of stories. I do think that this one probably could have had a little more development with it, but I think overall, I like those kind of movies. Some of the some of the characters were a little weird, but I mean, I do like I do like God's portrayal. I do like LL Cool J's portrayal. He was very charismatic. And you knew that he was a bad guy. And it was the same thing like we said with as Tupac, in different roles. Like you and especially Bishop, like you and Birdie, you know he's a bad guy, but you still kind of like him at the same time. So I think that um that portrayal by LL Cool J was pretty good. Let me see. Well, I mean, my ace in the hole is always put me along in the movie, so
Yeah.
so like, that's always a highlight right there. But no, I think that overall, I like those kind of stories.
All right. Donna, right. What did you like about the movie most?
Well, LL was good. Omar Epps is always good. Nia Long was good. That was it.
There you go.
That was it. They were not given much to work with. I mean, Leah Long's whole story arc is really kind of tangential and unnecessary. Like, if she wasn't in the movie, there were no stakes that were raised or anything. And so that was almost like window dressing to have someone like Nia Long, a waste of her talent.
Yeah. I always take notes, like what do I like, little anecdotes, I guess, that I find in this story. I like Jeff's story of why he became interested in becoming a cop, how growing up in the projects and seeing the names on the gray wall of his neighborhood of the kids that had been slain, and that he clearly remembered the youngest one's name, who was only 3 years old, and that
Yeah.
inspired him to become a cop and make a difference. Like, I kind of like that. I almost wish, but again, I wish development would have been more. Maybe we see a little bit of that upbringing or flashbacks.
That was my major problem.
That was it.
My
Yeah.
major problem with you don't know his motivation at all.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
they don't show you. They
don't
tell
show
you,
it.
and that's
Right.
a terrible way to try to develop a character. Like,
Yeah.
you really needed Neil Long to get this out of him. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
I hated this part.
And
Like,
another
we don't care. Like, they don't make us care.
Yeah, I wasn't emotionally attached to any of the
No.
characters, and
There are no stakes in this movie, and there's no reason to think this is such a paint by numbers movie that we got to the end and it's like, oh, nothing had changed. Actually, they got the guy, but that was it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dropped Nia Long in for guys like me that like Nia Long.
Yeah.
It worked. It works.
It works. And like, I don't know. This was 1999, so she may have been just kind of on the come up. So like, she wasn't even quite nearly as established. I'm not sure what she had done prior, but it's maybe one of those earlier films in her career, and she's had quite a storied career. One other highlight that I liked that it was put in the movie. In our introduction to the podcast, we discuss larger societal issues, and there was that scene of police brutality and racial profiling following Jeff's argument with Myra. These white cops came up on him, and he had gotten out of the car. Is there a problem here? And he said, "I'm a cop." They wouldn't believe him, and even when he was, he had his gun. He was showing. I don't know if he showed a badge or not, but they wouldn't believe him. They still throw him down and were beating on him. And I was like, that was, again, showing
I had another major problem with that scene.
So what was your problem with that scene?
So they get into an argument, which is fine, but that was the time when the cops show up. Like, the cops never show up when you need them.
Yeah.
And then if this was supposed to be a scene, so in the movie, the Cole and Myra are having an argument, and I think this is supposed to portray that he's turning into Reed and is losing his coldness, and so he's in too deep, supposedly. But then
Right.
when the cops come, oh, I'm a cop, and I don't show my badge, and maybe doesn't even have it on him, and so like, are you in too deep or are you not in too deep? And so the timing is terrible. Like, oh, they show up just exactly when they're needed. The only reason it happens because they wrote it in the script. There's no like reason for it to happen. So I was like, oh, this movie can't end fast enough.
He
Will they
flipped
please
the
take down this kingpin? I'm tired of this.
J. Reed, Jeff Cole switch. Flip, Macau.
Yeah, he hit the switch. So I looked it up. Neil Long was in Boys in the Hood,
Yes.
Made in America, Friday, 16 episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes.
All before she even
before
got
this,
into
yeah.
this
So
movie.
they did waste her
Soul
talent.
Food,
Yeah.
Love Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 episodes of Moesha.
I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they
I mean,
wasted
she
some
was
talent.
fine. I mean, she was fine, but they didn't give her anything to work with.
Also, the names Jeff and Myra. No offense to people named that, but like, does that sound like? To me, that sounds like 2 fans of like Peter, Paul, and Mary that would like sit by the campfire. Nerdy white folks.
Yeah, there's a laziness to the character writing, because the name of the actual person that God is named for, his name is Dwayne Giddings. His name's Dwayne Giddings. Like, you didn't do any work to change the character at all. You gave him the same name. You spelled it differently, but like, put some work in, please.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about all the different pitfalls. Dynamite, you mentioned a bunch. Any other ones?
I don't think we have enough time.
I think you emptied the chamber. Wow.
So on the ferry where Cole is taking pictures of Myra. Oh, hold this camera. Let me go get you a hot dog. And then that's when the DA or the
attorney general or whatever. Yeah,
the attorney general like shows up on the ferry with his family. Like, another plot contrivance. Like, oh, what great timing.
I thought that was a little bit too fortuitous. I could predict something's happening. Let me go get a hot dog.
It's like, oh, it says right here in the script, you go find the kind of attorney general on a boat in the middle of a river.
Yeah, what are the odds?
Like, not like at his office or something. Like, what are they doing here?
Oh man,
that was kind of odd. Oh man. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Another legendary actress, Pam Grier, was in it, right? So where should we all know Pam Grier from? For maybe the younger listeners, Pam Grier was a trailblazing actress. Multiple movies, like some of the blaxploitation films. She was huge in the 70s.
Yes.
Yep.
She was like one of the quintessential actors of any kind in the blaxploitation genre.
Yeah.
Some of the movies like Coffee, Foxy Brown, and many others.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino called her the first female action star, and I think he's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when Tarantino brought her into that role of Jackie Brown. She was a feature actress back in '97, and that was a fun movie. That was a good movie. Yeah, very fun movie. And I was like, wow, she could kick butt still. She was a star of the '70s and in the mid to late '90s. I mean, she was kicking butt. So yeah, she's in this as one of the head of the police crew. You know, where they're wiring Jeff Cole up or Jay Reed, Ado, and listening, and her and another associate kind of head of that investigation there. And Stanley Tucci played a guy named Preston, who was Jeff's boss. And again, I kind of feel like his talent was a little bit wasted too, because he's a legendary actor too.
Oh yeah, easily.
He's been in hundreds of films and on Broadway, and I mean, his was like kind of a cookie cutter role as the boss. There was nothing special about his performance, you know.
No, they didn't get much to work with.
They didn't get much to work with, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of threw him in there. Said, "Hey, we have a notable actor in the movie."
Yeah.
And Yeah, Stanley Tucci's one of my favorite. I love Stanley Tucci. Anything I see him in, I'm like, there he goes. That's my man right
He's
there.
a cool dude.
So
That's my man right
versatile and
there.
talented. Yeah.
Very cool dude.
Again, you would look, some of his memorable roles, and he's had so many. Like The Devil Wears Prada,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Deconstructing Harry, Big
Quincy's
Night.
Honor.
Yep. He was even in, for the MCU fans, Captain America: The First Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a ton of voice acting, and he still does.
The younger generation might know him from the Hunger Games.
Yes,
That's right.
That's right.
He's been nominated for an Oscar, so not bad.
So let's talk before we do like kind of rankings and ratings. I know we're going to go some of this, but how about the soundtrack? We always talk about the soundtrack. So I thought it was solid. What do you think, Boogie?
No, I think the soundtrack was definitely a solid soundtrack. I mean,
Yeah.
from that intro, I mean, you get the, you know, Quiet Storm remix as soon as it comes on. That's one of my favorite tracks. I love that track, and it's just so melodic. But no, there's some good songs on here. I mean, not necessarily songs that you hear a lot on the radio, but they were good as far as making me want to nod my head. I thought it was solid.
Yeah, I was nodding my head in a few. The song at the very end too was solid. I forget which one that was, but
Oh, the In Too Deep.
yeah, it was In Too Deep. It was called In Too.
Yeah,
Okay,
with
yeah,
Nas and Nature. Yeah,
Nas in Nature. I like that song. I was like, oh, that's a banger.
Mm-hmm.
On the soundtrack, Jermaine Dupri, um, Method Man and Redman, Lil Kim and
That
Mobb
was a good
Deep,
one.
50 Cent, Jill Scott, star-studded. The Locks. Yep, star-studded soundtrack. So that was one of the redeeming qualities of the film.
I think this could have been a Netflix series if they had actually put a story to this.
yeah, yeah. It definitely could have been a series. I mean, I was thinking like because The Wire is iconic, is an iconic crime series,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes place in Baltimore. This is in Cincinnati, so it's got a similar backdrop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would give us that development that we were looking for,
Yeah, that's the thing. If you can spread it out,
that
you
backstory.
yeah.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
things that we were looking for. You can definitely stretch those out in a series.
Mm-hmm. The whole suspense. I didn't really feel any suspense of him being found out because there was no like every time they tested him, he'd say, "What do you think I am?" And then it was just kind of they just move on. And so the one of the best parts of Mad Men was that you were always on the brink of Don getting found out, and so they could have used that they could use that in a Netflix series to build up the suspense and get people hooked on watching it. And I feel like Jay Reed never really paid any consequences on his way up or paid any dues. I mean, he did have to like compromise his principles along the way some, but you never really felt the stakes weren't very high or compelling, and so you like yeah, he shot the guy in the crotch, but it ultimately kind of felt like cartoonish and like oh
Right.
yeah, and you're supposed to push him down the path, I guess to the dark side, and there was still no like there was no payoff for that anyway. And it would have been fun to have a kind of cat and mouse game between God and Jay Reed, because that why God trusted Jay Reed so much throughout this film, I never really understood. So yeah, I think you could really work that into a Netflix series and really build on like why does he care? What this guy just showed up and he was trusted more than his guys who've been around him, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, it didn't feel that believable to me. Only they were only like paired against each other because they were the lead actors.
It was kind of like God was training as a boxer, or he'd like to do that for fitness, and Jay Reed or Jeff Cole, whatever it was he was standing up to him, and he was able to spar with him, or help. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're in. I'm like, that makes no sense.
I mean, you get boxing training in the academy. And I'm like, these other guys, like the one guy couldn't hold the heavy
The
bag.
heavy bag, yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
hard, but
Yeah.
like no one else could hold bag gloves. No one else could hold the target pads.
Yeah.
It's like, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, you're in. you can hold focus pads. You're in.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind
Like
of
that was it. Like
the other aspect that could lead to a Netflix series would be, you know, Jeff being a trainer for the cadets, and like you
Yeah.
could have this pipeline of
Mhm.
younger undercover cops and kind of talk about their exploits, and maybe he gets engaged at certain points, and
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
flashbacks and some
Yeah.
other tie-ins that way.
Yeah. Yeah. You could actually use Nia Long or a love interest character for some
Yeah.
for some story benefit. And maybe they could put one plot twist in a Netflix series because there weren't any in this movie.
No, there definitely weren't any.
No, you could predict this from like a mile away. Like, oh,
Yeah.
give me your gun and badge.
It was just so funny at the
Seriously,
end.
like
At the end, it was like the cops come in and surround LL Cool J's character, God, and everything. And it's like, wait, you're a cop? You're a cop? You're not a cop. You're a sellout. And it's like, what? It's like,
yeah.
It was such a letdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 And then Breezy turned state's evidence at the end. It was like a nicely wrapped up kind of detail. Like, oh, I'll be cool in 3.5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He'll do his time and come out and be square.
All right. So let's go around and give our rating. It's pretty much keep it or leave it. So we haven't done this in a little while because we've been doing a lot of docu-series and documentaries. So back to your traditional movie. Boogie, bring that funky flick back.
Bring that funky flick back.
Or leave it in the vault.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave this one in the vault.
Right. Dinah Wright. Predictable.
Despite Roger Ebert giving this movie thumbs up, and I respect him greatly, I'm also leaving this in the vault.
That makes 3 of us. I will leave it in the vault. Many pitfalls and flaws in this one. For me to want to actively seek it out when there's so much other great content out there.
Yeah, maybe there's some clips on YouTube you can watch LL Cool J, or just watch NCIS, or even Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. That's a fine film.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh man, I did notice one actor in a movie that I recognized from one of my old movies that I like to watch though. David Patrick Kelly.
Oh,
He played the DEA agent Rick Scott, the shorter fellow in the movie that was with the police officer who was trying to convince the DA to let Jeff continue to stay undercover. He's in my film The Warriors, old gang movie from New York.
oh yeah.
He's the guy that actually shot Cyrus in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, hey, that's Woolsey right there. It's funny, every time I spot him, I'm like, hey, I know him.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Wright. Theme music by Boogie. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Hip Hop Movie Club. On the next episode of the Hip Hop Movie Club podcast, your HHMCs review Dashing Through the Snow. Subscribe now in your favorite podcast app and you won't miss it. Shout out to you listeners. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, don't hate, hydrate. Drink that water.
I learned from a classmate to hydrate or dihydrate.
That's a good one.
Bring it, come on.